I have 4 daughters, and they range between age 9 and 16 at the moment. So I'm going to give 4 reasons to my daughters why we should attend church, right? Number 1, for God's sake. I want to know God. They want to know God. We were created by God and for God, and they will have no rest, as Augustine put it, apart from God, their creator, the shepherd of their souls, the one who's calling them to himself. So whether they're Christians or not at this moment, I want to say, girls, you want to know God. There's nothing more important, nothing better than knowing God, right? We're also to obey God. He commands us to gather with his people. So number 1, for God's sake, to worship God. Number 2, for the church's sake, or let's say for the family of God's sake. So as a Christian, finally, I don't go to a church because it's good for me. I go to a church, I attend a church because it's what I am, the church, a member of God's family. And not only that, I'm commanded to gather because the church gathering is where we love and stir one another up to good deeds, says Hebrews 10. So I'm going to help stir them up, my fellow family members, up to love and good deeds, and I need to be stirred up to love and good deeds. So number 1, for the sake of God. Number 2, for the sake of the church. Number 3, for the sake of non-Christians. 1 Corinthians 12 talks about, or 14 rather, talks about when the non-Christian enters into that assembly and they hear the preaching and see the teaching and see the lives transformed, they will say, God really is among you. So the corporate gathering of the church is to have this evangelistic witness. That's true for outsider non-Christians. I think it's also true for our children. And then finally, number 4, for my sake. Kids, I need the church. Your daddy's a sinner. Your daddy needs to be reminded every week of the gospel. Your dad and your mom need to sit under the preaching of God's word so that we grow in holiness and grace. And here's what I want my kids to have. I don't want them just to see godliness as me or their mom. I want my daughters to see other pictures of mature godliness so that they're not limited to just me and their mom. My girls, my kids will grow in grace as they see these other examples. So I need it clearly in my own life, and my daughters need it for their sake, you might say, as they hear the gospel, hear the Bible, and then also watch other mature Christians. So kids, why do we attend church? For God's sake, for the church's sake, or the family of God's sake, for non-Christians' sake, and finally for our own sake.